December 11, 2012. Chief Irvin, you did catch it?
Yes. Gracious Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity to be here. Just thank you for all the many blessings you have bestowed upon this tribe, and just give us guidance and wisdom, and just bless the families, and your Lord just guide and bless the leadership of this tribe. In Jesus' name we pray.
Chuck Huskin Jr.
Here.
Dave Blankenstick.
Here.
Jill England.
Here.
Jack Baker.
Here.
Joe Byrd.
Only
Juliet Coates. Here. Jody Fishinghawk.
Here.
Meredith Fraley.
Here.
Janelle Fulbright. Here. Don Garvin. Frankie Hargis.
Present.
Anna Gloria Jordan.
Present.
Lee Keener.
Honey.
Dick Lay.
here.
Curtis Snell.
Here.
David Thornton. Terry Collin White.
Honey.
We do have a form.
Council's minutes for November 29th are not prepared. We'll have those for approval at the next meeting. We'll now move to reports on reports. I'd like to dispense with the oral reports, but please come forward because councilors will have questions just because time won't permit lengthy oral reports. So for the Marshal Service. Available for the Marshal Service, okay. Office of Attorney General.
Not much has changed since the last report that I gave, but I will avail myself to any questions that you have.
Any questions for the general?
Thank you. If the UKB issues continue to be a concern, is there any time frame that we're concerned about, that they have times to respond or mandates? Or are we just in limbo waiting?
Well, we're waiting for, all the appropriate filing has been done. As I reported last time as to the 76 acres, the briefing is absolutely complete. We are number 58 in line for a written decision. As to the 2.03 acre suit in the Northern District, the United States has filed their answer. The UKB has filed, or not the United States has filed their answer. We are still waiting to see if the UKB files an intervention. I'm assuming that they will, but they have not at this point. We are scheduled for a status conference. We have met telephonically for that status conference. We have, when that status conference occurs, they will give us a date by which we will do our briefing. There's very little fact issues that will allow for discovery. One thing that we will not know that until the United States submits its administrative record, which they have not yet. So we are awaiting the administrative record to see what they put in, what they left out, and then file our objections to the administrative record from there.
So I had hoped that there was opportunity to turn this situation around, given the new head of the BIA, Mr.
Yes.
Washburn, I guess Assistant Secretary Washburn is. I find he's much more seasoned and reasonable and tries to follow the law, unlike the former.
Right.
So I guess there's no opportunity for them to regroup under their new leadership?
We will be meeting with Assistant Secretary Washburn in the near future.
Okay.
And when that date is set, I will let you know.
Because I continue to watch the national news for Indian Country, and I'm very concerned about the number of off-reservation, out-of-jurisdiction casinos being approved, and where the tertiary fix is going and how it might impact the situation for us.
The word that we get on the tertiary fix is that it's very unlikely during the lame duck session.
Okay.
And then, but we are keeping, like I reported last time, a very close eye on that matter. So we expect to work on that very hard in the new Congress. And part of that is to be meeting with staff, meeting with congressmen, and educating them about our position on tertiary. Like I said, we look forward to a tertiary fix as long as it's the right fix.
Very good. Well, I know that your office has a large and pretty important caseload, so thank you for that. Tell your staff and your team thank you.
They are. I'm extremely proud of them. They really do a lot of work. I mean, with the what I've discovered is that it's not necessarily go out and hire outside firms when you got some of the national experts right there in your own office. So we are increasing the caseload on the very valuable attorneys that we have, and as an aside to that, we are saving Cherokee people's money. So we will continue to do that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor. Any further questions for the Attorney General? Yes.
Would you have an estimate of how much we got spent on this litigation?
I can get that. I can get that for you. I mean, but there's a lot of different matters. So, I mean, I can get you an estimate on the 2.03 acres. I can get you an estimate on the 76 acres.
Just those two?
Just those two.
Yes.
Okay. I will.
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Any further questions for the Attorney General? Thank you, sir. All right. Election Commission, is there any representative for the Election Commission? Very good. Ms. Webster, Councilor Hamilton.
They were here, so I don't know where they went.
They were here.
I was hoping for feedback on how they determined they might what their findings were and how they resolved issues around the at-large in-district voters.
Yeah, we could come back to them if they're not immediately available.
Okay, thank you very much.
Ms. Weston, if you'd come forward, we'll go ahead and have you field questions.
I think you have my report, so I'll try to answer any questions that you might have.
Council.
Because the timing when I got my book, not because of our staff or you guys, but I didn't get a chance to read your report like I wanted. How are we progressing on the veterans tax relief?
Okay, I'm working with C&B.
Okay.
And right now I came up with a plan, and I visited with Sean, and he had a little different idea, so I'm going back and we're working on that again. But it passed, I'm assuming, last night with the word Cherokee in there, and that's basically what we were waiting on. And we will start getting applications out and notice out how we're going to process that and what we need to do to get that identification out there for those. It's going to be some type of a card. I don't know if it'll be a card swipe or it's going to just have a number on it that they're going to key in. That's something that I'm working on with C&B.
Is it an opportunity to do that with registration and have something on those IDs rather than creating this separate process?
I'm not sure. Since they already started their process, that would mean if there were veterans, they would have to go back and redo those. So I'm not sure, but it's something we can check into and see.
Because I would hate to continue
Right.
to duplicate and
Right,
everything else.
understand.
Everybody can help each other out.
It's just that it has to have tracking data on it, which means it would have to have an issue number. And it would have to have several more pieces than what's just on the ID.
Okay,
So,
well, very good. And you're going to track financials. I mean, I don't see
Yes.
this to be a huge significant impact.
no, but they would have to furnish a report back to me every month showing who the tax exemptions were given to, so we would get a list of that back every month from a report.
Well, very good. Thank you, Sharon.
Councilor Walker.
Thank you, Council.
Hey Sharon,
Yes.
if I come by your office next week sometime,
Sure.
can you give me the numbers of retail sales in your smoke shops?
Uh-huh.
Okay, thank you.
I can get you that. We have it available. I can get it for you for the past year or whatever you want. So,
Just 1 year.
okay, you want me to go ahead and email that to you?
Yes, that'd be great.
Sure.
All right, thank
I
you.
can do that.
Thank you, Councilor. Ms. Webster, on the veterans tax exemption, do disabled veterans, whether they're Cherokee or not, don't they have a card?
The 100% disabled already has a card that's issued by the state. It is just a paper card. It has a identification number on it, and that's what is used for them to put into their system for them to get that tax exemption.
But just a rank and file veteran, so to speak, not disabled, wouldn't necessarily have a card.
They would not have it. It's only issued for 100% disabled.
So is that the issue why we need to produce our own card?
Yes.
Because wouldn't the disabled veteran just be able to produce his disabled veteran
Yes.
card, his blue card? Or
Yes.
We've got a whole.
Well,
universe.
100% disabled, our law allows for all 100%
That's
disabled.
all.
So
So
they
just-
don't just
they-
have to
they
be a
just
Cherokee
need a
citizen.
card.
They just need that card.
But it's the universe of the veterans that don't necessarily have a card that
Right.
we've got to.
Right, and
Right.
those we have to verify that they are citizens, and that's something that we would do in the process of issuing that card to them.
Okay, very good, thank you. Any further questions for Ms. Webster? Okay, thank you, Ms. Webster.
Just one other thing, just FYI, the tag offices will all be closed tomorrow for staff training. It's been put out there for about 3 weeks, but somebody always misses it. So just FYI, they're all closed tomorrow for training.
Thanks very much.
Okay,
go ahead and
No,
move
here comes
on.
that one. What's her name?
Lindsay Earls.
I hear I'm up.
Commissioner, we've had some questions on election commission. We weren't looking for a report, just to field questions, so.
Okay.
That's okay.
Man, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Lindsay. Merry Christmas.
You too.
So I was hoping, and I know we had a discussion at Last Rules in November concerning the at-large in-district voter letter.
Mm-hmm.
Could you maybe tell us about what you found did happen and how we're gonna maybe, is there a way to rectify it, or what do we need to do?
I discovered that we did send out the 5-district map. I don't know which, still not sure which map went out with, to the voters, but we've had a few people call with questions. We're answering those questions, and we have our meeting this afternoon, and we'll take it up and decide if we need to take any further action or not. So,
I haven't looked at the website today or yesterday, but were you able to update it and put everything online?
I know our things have been sent over, and there were some questions about parts of our website have been updated, parts of them they're deciding where certain things need to go, if we want it on our Legistar page or on our own page. So I know that things have been sent over. I don't know, I haven't checked to see if they're actually up yet.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor. Thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions for the Commissioner? Thank you.
All right, I'm going back next door to work.
All right, Ms. Handy? Do you have any questions for Ms. Handy?
I apologize, I just handed out a report. I just returned to work and my first week went to a national self-governance meeting. So I have some information that I brought back for you to update you on some national self-governance issues, and I wanted to share those with you. I know that although I was out of the office, I kept in touch with a few folks, particularly with the contract support cost, the $50 million, which I know you all are interested in. I've received a few phone calls and questions in regards to that. I've included in your packet that I just handed out a letter from an Alaska Senator Begich, who sent a letter to the White House and to the administration of IHS in regards to the settlement and some of the issues that have arisen regarding that. I wanted to share that letter with you. It's pretty scathing. Also along that line, there's actually two issues that we're dealing with. One is past claims, and then also how IHS is going to deal with processing future contract support costs. We have been in touch with Lloyd Miller and other tribes at the national level and the status of those discussions, and we have a conference call with self-governance tribes this Thursday. I just received notice to discuss some of those issues and some of the strategy as to how we want to try to proceed as a collective group of self-governance tribes. Along with the contract support cost issue is also the FOIA appeal that a coalition of tribes are working on, which pertains to how IHS is processing our current contract support cost. And again, I've included some information in your packet in regards to that. The district court, the judge has told IHS to basically either provide the information to the tribes or explain to the judge why they feel that it's not subject to FOIA request. Within the National Self-Governance Strategy Session, which is basically a group of tribal leaders, self-governance administrators, attorneys, we get together as a collective group to try to come up with a unified position or strategy, both on legislative issues as well as administrative and budgetary issues. I included a final issue packet, if you will, for you to review. And again, this is, we intentionally had this meeting after the election so that we would know who would be in office, which of course could have a drastic effect on what strategy we would proceed with. So we intentionally had the meeting after the election, and the documents that I've provided to you is basically an outline as well as a background on some of the national self-governance issues. The first one is contract support cost, which I'm sure you're quite interested in because the nation has $50 million on the line for past claims, not including how we're going to deal with future processing of contract support costs. Another issue that's included is the sequestration on IHS funds. This is huge for Indian country in the sense that the way it stands right now, IHS could have a reduction of $353 million. OMB has issued guidance that they believe that the mandatory funds would not be subject to that. However, IHS only has special diabetes funds that are considered mandatory, and I think that's about $150 million. So we've still got a lot of money that is on the table to be cut. What we are working on and what I would ask that we do as a body is to pursue a statutory exemption. And that's what self-governance tribes are trying to do on the national level. There's already certain programs that have a statutory exemption, including VA, child care, Medicaid. There's several that have a statutory exemption, so they will not be subject to the sequestration cuts. So that's what we are trying to do on a legislative front, is to also include IHS. We feel there's a trust responsibility, and we're asking Congress to exempt IHS from those cuts.
How optimistic are you that the House of Representatives is going to entertain making IHS funds statutorily exempt?
Even though
they don't seem to be in the mood to do anything but cut and gut.
we do have
Program that
friends.
helps the middle class of the poorest people in the country.
Well, we do have friends in Indian country, and I would urge all citizens, not including, you all as well, but I mean all Cherokee citizens to work towards and write not just our congressman, but try to do what we can to get that taken care of. And that's what this is doing as a collective body. We're trying to work with certain congressmen to push our agenda.
Would you, I don't know if your shop would do it or our new lobbying firm, but kind of take the pulse of our congressional delegation, particularly those in the House, to see if they're inclined to pursue this. I suspect that they will not be inclined.
But this is something that obviously we're going to coordinate, and we're looking at all avenues to achieve this. We have a strong presence in Washington D.C. The chief is up there this week, and there are going to be and this is obviously a matter of great importance, and that I will be coordinating with Vicki to make sure that our concerns get voiced to the not only our congressmen, but again, congressmen who are chairman and vice chairman and the like.
But I would like to know what our congressional delegation thinks about this, because the fact of the matter is, if they supported it, it would mean millions and millions more dollars for health care, for Oklahomans.
Yes.
But I bet they don't. Chief Burton and Council Fishing, I think, had a question on this. Council Burton?
We have an intertribal coming up next month.
Yes.
This needs to be addressed in unison there. Of course, we always have, but in years past, so this is just another opportunity to do that. And like,
And I would like to see a Five Tribes resolution in regards
Sure.
to that.
That would be
I
a
will
good
say
way to do
that Choctaw, Chickasaw, they were also at this meeting, and they had representatives at this meeting as well,
Sure.
so.
but I would like, as Mr. Chairman here said, is get an assessment on our Oklahoma delegation and where they stand, because we have a new representative in the 2nd District. Let us get where they stand on these issues here, and for our sake.
And he will be receiving a personal phone call from me.
Absolutely.
This will be an incredible opportunity for Councilor Mullins to take a stand for the Cherokee people. Councilor Fishing, do you have a question?
Yeah, I had a question of the AG. Does the lobbying firm ever send reports, black papers, anything to you weekly or monthly?
Often, yeah. Yeah, I can share those with you.
Okay, I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Councilor Fishing, Councilor Mullins?
Thank you. I assume those reports will be sent to everyone, whether there's a disclaimer on them or not, so we know what.
Yeah, there will be some that'll, I mean, it's, like I said, there's numerous reports on copious issues. I will be happy to, upon request, share any of them.
I would
And if they're
assume-
confidential, I will mark them confidential.
Right, but I would assume, because we changed this whole format and got rid of the DC office, that we would all get those monthly.
Okay, I will make it a point that the reports that are sent on issues are disseminated.
Thank you.
And I will say that with me out of the office the last couple of months or so, that, we've kind of got to get back in the groove of discussions. So we do have some catching up to do.
And thank you for all the work on all these, because I know they're complicated. When I've had the opportunity and honor to do consultation of the work you and your team do is appreciated.
Thank you.
On the CDC, I know you may have still been out. Did the health and chief's office work with you on the CDC issues that have been brought to my attention while out doing national health work for the tribe?
As far as,
There's a letter sent from the chief's office because there's very big concerns. The tribes appear to be being undermined by some of the bureaucrats within the CDC and possibly one other tribe. The consultation's not working at the TTAC. The TTAC itself seems to be dysfunctional now. They're trying to push forward the consultation policy for the CDC that's been on the shelf for 12 years or so. And then the new tribal liaison has reportedly said that Cherokee Nation, because of the Freedmen issue, will not get their portfolio, and that's a $12 million impact to the tribe. We have one of the largest CDC portfolios, if I recall correctly. We need to aggressively work this. And I would hope that your office would be involved with that, because it needs to be dealt with.
yes, and
I haven't seen the letter. I'd like to.
and I have not seen that either, but like I said, I've been out of the office, but I am aware of that issue.
Okay, thank you.
Just briefly to go on, I'm not going to go through all of those because you've got them in your packet. Primarily, they deal with the furtherance of self-governance, and I might add that the majority of funding that the nation receives in federal funding is through self-governance agreements. So it's key for us to work with other tribes and on the national level with NCAI and others to further our agenda and the concerns of Cherokee Nation. I do want to make you aware that we had the Office of Inspector General here last week on our roads program. And actually, they are not auditing Cherokee Nation. They're auditing the Federal Highway Administration on Indian Reservation roads, which now the name has changed, but actually our roads program. And that went very well. Also, we are in the process of finalizing the agreement with Federal Highway. We had to update the agreement based on the new legislation that passed for MAP 21 with the new legislation and the requirements in that. We are in the process of finalizing that. And I do want to publicly thank Michael Lynn and some of his staff for stepping up with some of that while I was out of the office. They did a good job in keeping things going in that regard. So I do want to thank them for doing that. And I think that's it. Is that enough?
Councilor Fitzgerald, did you have an additional question?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And thank you all for your well wishes. And my girls are doing fine. My little one's doing much better. And I appreciate, I get choked up, all of the friends and coworkers that I have and all of the well wishes and thoughts and prayers. I appreciate it.
Councilman Lay, you had a question.
And it may be to the general and
Okay.
Ms. Ann is,
Good question.
what's this letter that was received, we just heard about?
I'm not aware of the letter. I'm going to inquire of the chief's office to see if a letter exists. If it does, we'll get it.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. Mr. Hummingbird, let's see if anybody has any questions for you. Questions, Mr. Hummingbird, from the Gaming Commission?
If I might just do a brief update. At the last Rules Committee meeting, I mentioned that the Fort Gibson facility was scheduled to open on December 4th. We did make December 4th. We opened around noon to about 400 people, welcoming them to the newest facility for Cherokee Nation Entertainment. Just to kind of, if I can have the council's indulgence for just a moment, I'd like to do something that I don't normally do, and that's brag. I know it comes as a shock, but I do want to brag not only just on my staff, but on the staff of C&E and everybody that put that project together. It's a big undertaking, and unless you are able to see that thing going from beginning to what we ultimately opened up to the public, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around. But we had a lot of good people involved with this project. From my side, we had Stephen Van, Jerry Neal, Rebecca LeClaire, and a number of others working very hard to get all aspects of that facility ready. And C&E's people did an outstanding job. Tracy Hayes, Josh Eller, Tim Mannon, all of those guys got the facility up and running very good. But one of the things that I think is very important to point out with this project is that by opening the new expanded facility, there were 75 full-time, 1 part-time jobs that were created, new jobs. They filled 73 of those jobs, 100% of those were Cherokee. So it's very important to realize that not only does this have a money-generating or revenue-generating aspect for the nation as a whole, but we're putting a lot of Cherokees to work out there. So if you are able to make it over to Fort Gibson today at 1 o'clock, they're having a ribbon cutting. Welcome anybody to show up and attend. If you have the time available, I'd love to take you on a tour and show you around and give you a behind-the-scenes look at what it really goes on in these gaming facilities.
Councilman Burke?
Jamie, I want to commend you and your staff for representing the Cherokee Nation at not only the tribal level, but the national level. If you remember, Fort Gibson facility, when we did the feasibility study in 95, 96, under Mike Watkins, you were part of that. We only created 12 jobs.
Yep.
That was thinking of it. Look where we are now.
Yep.
I just want to commend you and your staff for doing an excellent job and representing us well, all over the country.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councilor Campbell?
Thank you. I meant to ask this of Sharon too, for her part of the house, but it looks like we have legislation coming forward on 2 different items concerning individually owned smoke shop operations. So has the Gaming Commission and your office, your team, so both the governance side and the actual day-to-day operations with respect to yours, been consulted on the individual smoke shop owners having liquor in their stores? Because I don't know if that would have to, and then gaming and the combination of the two, you may not if liquor came first, you may not be involved until the gaming, but are those discussions being had and you're doing your due diligence on your side? Because that looks like it's on the agenda or will be shortly.
I know at some time, not too long ago, the question of whether or not gaming in individual smoke shops essentially could happen. The short answer to that is yes and no. No in the sense that right now the gaming ordinance that we have provides for only tribally owned facilities to be operated, and the only operator out there right now is Cherokee Nation Entertainment. It is possible under the terms of IGRA to allow gaming in individually owned casinos. However, that has to be spelled out and approved within the tribal gaming ordinance itself. So at this moment, individually owned shops could not offer gaming of their own volition. It is possible that they could do it in partnership with C&E, and there is a methodology to do that, but it brings up a lot of other questions, and questions that would have to be addressed on an individual basis, because the circumstances for one smoke shop will differ drastically for another. And there are requirements and regulations that would come into play that all the smoke shop owners and C&E would have to contend with. So it is possible. It's not easy.
I have two questions.
Okay.
One, have we ever legally had smoke shops have games in them at any time in the history of the Cherokee Nation?
No.
We ever illegally had smoke shops, in individual smoke shops in the history of the Cherokee Nation?
There was a time about 7 or 8, almost 8 years ago, I believe it was, that there were some smoke shops that had what were called sweepstakes phone card machines. Those were very veiled gaming machines. Those were deemed illegal not only by us, but the NIGC, and there's a number of other jurisdictions that have taken a stance against those types of machines being considered legal forms of gaming. We were able to bring that activity to a halt, and it hasn't resurfaced, to my knowledge, anywhere else. But not since I've been involved with the Gaming Commission have we had gaming in smoke shops under our gaming ordinance.
So as a follow-up to that, could you work with Sheriff's Webster somehow? I don't know if it needs to be separate reports or not, but the history, the pros and the cons of both the alcohol and the gaming coming into individual smoke shops and what that means for both your entities as governance for the tribe?
Definitely.
And please include the history. I'd like details on it, because there's always rumors, but I want to dispel those quickly, because we're going into that again, it appears, possibly. Okay, thank you so much.
Definitely.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Keener?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jamie, I was going to ask you if there's any new developments or a new direction on online gaming.
At this time, no. Following it from a national level, Senators Reid and Kyle were reportedly trying to work on a bill to bring, they had first thought they would be able to get it done by end of this calendar year. As of a couple of weeks ago, I think the movement on that bill has ceased. I don't think we're going to be looking at anything on online gaming at a federal level, at least until the spring. Then it's kind of iffy. I'm not sure if there's a lot of support out there on both sides of Congress, whether or not they could get such a bill passed. So it may or may not resurface in the spring, but if it does, it's still got a very steep mountain to climb. On the state level, I don't know of any discussions being held or any bills being offered. So at this point, I'm going to say online gaming is not coming to Oklahoma or Cherokee country anytime soon.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Counselor? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Attorney General, any updates on codification?
The contract is, as I reported yesterday, or last week, it is signed, Wes is working on it. One thing that I wanted to ask is that in the previous Blue Book volumes, there was a a letter or a forward on behalf of the Cherokee Nation Tribal Council and the Rules Committee. I would appreciate it if this body would formulate a letter that would be supplemented, that will be put into the printed volume. So, Mr. Chairman, Madam Speaker, if you could do that task.
When will you need that?
Probably within the next 2 weeks.
I'll get with you on it.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Cherokee. Mr. Justice, is he here for registrar citizenship data update? All right. Representative from the Tribal Youth Council.
Is it morning now or is it afternoon? I'm not sure. Morning. None of the youth council could be here today because they're either at finals or have exhausted all their available days off of school. So there are a couple of updates on that report that was submitted. There was a couple of blank lines on the attendance area, and there was a couple other things that have happened since this report was printed. December attendance at December 1st was 9 students, and then we also had 7 with us last night at the tribal council meeting. And I can answer any other questions about this report.
I just had a question. Somewhere in here it said something like there was a discussion that Ms. Cherokee had been sort of assigned to be the representative for at-large on the Tribal Youth Council, but that she may be sort of overwhelmed because she's got her duties as Ms. Cherokee in addition, well, this in addition to her duties as Ms. Cherokee would be the better way to put it. Who is her sponsor, chaperone, or whatever at this point?
There's a committee.
Are you?
I'm not on that committee. Tonette Hummingbird, Mary Kay Henderson, Lisa Trice Turtle, and there's several others, but those are the main ones that I can think of off the top of my head. We did actually talk to the committee about it. Her capacity is really, the Youth Council elected did not have an at-large representative. They only had that for a couple of years. And it's mainly for her to, since she is at large so much, it's mainly for her to tell us if there's something that concerns the youth at large, so that there's kind of a conduit for that. She doesn't really, she's not required to attend meetings or anything like that. It doesn't really add to her burden because her schedule is so busy.
But what you just said is actually what I wanted to inquire about, and I don't know if you're the proper person, probably not, but I don't know who is, so. I said because she is at large so much, but she's not, is the thing. And people are requesting her, they're asking where she's at, because in the past, Ms. Cherokees have come to the at-large meetings on a very regular basis and so forth, and suddenly they're not any longer. She isn't since hers began, and it's our understanding that she really would like to very much, but for some reason she's just not being sent out any longer, it seems like. So I'm not quite sure why that is. We do want her there. People are asking about her. They do want to meet her and to know her. And so if you could convey that to whoever the powers are.
I will let them know.
I would really appreciate it.
Okay, I will do that.
Thank you.
Any questions? Youth Council? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, Council Key.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Patrick. I see the Tribal Youth Council is planning on attending the Unity Conference. And has the early deadline already passed on that, or is it still?
January 13th is the deadline for the reservations at hotel and such, so we're still in that window.
Okay.
We're inquiring as to, with our budget, how that will transact. They're in the process of making some changes within the leadership area.
Okay.
And so I'm trying to figure out where our administrative staff, the chaperones that go, how that's paid for, what budget that comes out of. And so we got to figure out if we actually have enough money, if it's going to come out of the Youth Council's budget or a different budget. So we're trying to figure that out.
That was my next question. And what is the Tribal Youth budget right now?
less IDC, it's just a little over $7,000.
Well, and we allocated 40,000 for ACES, is that?
That wasn't in our area, I think it was under education. But I think
Okay.
there was an allocation for ACES.
Well, we allocated 40,000 as council, but only one student went. So I don't know what happened to, I don't think it cost 40,000 for that one student, but that'd be a good trip.
Students.
But, so I didn't know if we could capture that money from there to apply to Unity, but I think the money is there.
This mid-year conference is just for the 2 representatives, but then there will be an annual conference in LA, I think in July, and they do really want to go. It's a great opportunity for them. They are hitting the ground trying to come up with all kinds of ideas for fundraisers right now, because they want to try to raise as much money as they can to put towards that. But I know they'll have to come to the council at some point asking for assistance.
Okay, so is there anything right now we can do as a council to ensure that they'll have the monies available for their trips?
I don't know right now. We're still waiting to see where that budget flushes out, and there are changes that are coming up from the administration. So,
Well, I didn't know if we need to pass a resolution or not, since we did make monies available, then it wasn't utilized for what we had intended.
Sure.
I want to make sure that that doesn't happen again if we can.
They are actually, Attorney General is going to do a workshop in the near future on on resolutions for them. We're trying to set a date soon, but they're going to try to work on a resolution for that coming up. So that may be where that money comes from, if possible. So
Very good.
it's on their task list.
We don't want to.
We don't want to miss it.
Right. Yeah, it's our youth after all.
That's right.
For crying out loud.
That's right.
Also, I wanted to thank at least the tribal youth leaders in our area have been very active, so I really appreciate that. It's good to see them. We're always glad to have them with us, and we like to introduce them. And
I've heard a number of reports from the different tribal counselors, and it's been very exciting to hear how they've been stepping up, so I'm very pleased.
thank you, Patrick.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, thank you, because there's been a number. There's been our local folks, and then there's actually been some others that have come and, learned how to register voters and all sorts of, and they're always welcome at our events.
Oh, yeah.
We do have an event coming up on January 12th that they're welcome to come assist with, because I think we're going to have a large number of students and their families at that January 12th scholarship presentation. They would be welcome to come and do that work or have their own booth if they wanted to recruit students at that time, even to volunteer, maybe not even to run, that they just wanted to help with their projects. The other thing is, I thought we budgeted travel money for this. I'm confused why you're going to have to come back for monies and why we're only sending 2 kids. I thought we had budgeted for the entire youth council to go on possibly even 2 trips a year. And now I'm hearing differently. Can you remind me about the budget process?
For the Unity program, the mid-year conference is only for the 2 representatives.
Okay.
We don't send the whole council. You can, but it's not encouraged because it's a small group function.
Okay.
But for the Unity conference that happens at the annual conference in July, it's a big event, usually between 1,800 and 3,000 kids, depending on the year. It's a great opportunity for them to learn about cultural events. They have leadership training and all. It's just an awesome event. And so in the past, we had a leadership budget that would pay for staff travel, but the leadership or the youth council has never had, that I know of, more than about $8,000 in their budget, and then IDC comes out of that. It's about $1,000 out of that. So they've never really had enough money. So any monies in the past that they've utilized to go, they've either gone to a resolution, having assistance from the council, or they've raised the money on their own. And so they're looking at, like I said, at fundraising opportunities, but that is a staggering amount of money to go to take 16 kids to
So will they,
LA.
can you have that budget, the request formulated for us next month while there's carryover money even available before it gets dispersed?
We can kind of get an estimate because we won't know what the hotel is or anything yet until after February, but I can get some rough
So I'd ask
estimate.
that this be on the agenda for ENF.
For ENF? Okay.
Yeah, and if you would have that for us a good week before so that we can work with Jamie and Lacey to determine where the money would come from.
Okay.
And please provide details and the number that all those kids are gonna get to attend, because I know they do hard work and they should all have the opportunity to attend.
Absolutely, I agree.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Chairwoman Fishing Hawk, did you note the agenda item?
No, but I'll note.
Thank you.
Very good. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, we're now on to old business. Our first item of old business is an action relating to drug testing for elected officials. That
David Thornton's not here, so those two go to the table. That was
table 1 and 2, we get a motion to table 1 and 2, no business second. All those in favor say aye. The same sign, those are tabled to next month's meeting. Then we go on to items 1 and 2 of new business. I'm going to withdraw. And that leads us to item number 3, resolution confirming the nomination of Buck George as a board member of Cherokee Nation Businesses LLC. Chief Bird, Councilman Bird, would you introduce that and move for approval?
This is a resolution to confirm the nomination of Buck George as a board member of Cherokee Nation Business LLC. Put that in form of a motion.
Second.
Add Council Hurst as a sponsor. Further addition as a sponsor.
I'd like to add it as a sponsor.
Madam Speaker, Councilor Fulbright, Councilor Washington, Councilor Lane. Very good. Mr. George is here. I see the City Attorney General has risen.
Just as a formal introduction, the administration is pleased to put forward the nomination of Mr. Buck George as a member of the Cherokee Nation Businesses Board of Directors. Mr. George is a business owner in Cherokee County, has started a feed mill company and retail operation from the ground up. He's a good Cherokee citizen that is a self-made man, and I believe that he will bring a great dynamic to the Cherokee Nation Board of Directors, and we would wholeheartedly ask for your support in his confirmation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. General. Madam Speaker, do you have introductory comments?
Yes. I was surprised and quite excited when I saw his name come over from the executive branch. I do need to expose that Buck and I are cousins. I have checked with the legal counsel and the Attorney General's office. I have also notified the Chief's office because he did not realize that Buck and I were cousins at the time. I don't think anybody knew until we started telling folks that we are kinfolks, but you can't hardly throw a loop in this county that you're not going to catch some of my kinfolks. But I understand from the AG and from our own legal counsel that that does not pose a problem, that I am allowed to vote, and I will be fully supporting him. He's not only my cousin, that aside, he's a good man. He's a good Christian, he's a good business person. He grew up here in this county, and he's certainly someone that has a great deal of common sense, and that is a board that can always use someone that applies common sense to their business activities. So with that, I'll turn it back to the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mr. George, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
For stepping forward to the nomination. Do you have any words to share with the committee?
I appreciate this opportunity, number one. And I am been raised right here in Cherokee County and have been in business here for 30+ years. And married, have 2 children that are in Tahlequah High School. And look forward to the opportunity if you pass me to work with Cherokee Nation and Cherokee people to better our lives.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Conowatz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hi.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the opportunity to be here with us today and accepting such an incredible nomination. I'm not familiar with you, so I have questions.
Yes, ma'am.
So on your resume, it said you attended Northeastern State University. Do you have a bachelor's degree or master's degree?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
I went 1 year, and then I quit college and went into business with my father. We started a dairy business, and him and I partnered the year I stopped going to college, I decided to go into business with him. I did that for, him and I were partners for 10 years. And during that process, we started building this feed mill from the ground up. My dad had some experience in that because he owned the feed mill here in Tahlequah when I was younger. So him and I built it from the ground up and still running today, 25 years later. So I purchased from my father about 10 years ago. So.
And how many employees do you manage?
Right now I have 8 employees full-time and about 3 part-time employees in that business.
Okay. And can you, without a formal degree, which is not a requirement, but can you tell me about your experience in reading financial statements and, you know, economic development and strategy?
Well, most of that I've done, part of it was from my dad's help, but I do it myself. I've learned it kind of the hard way growing up, you know. I do financial statements every day. I do accounts every day of what my business does and day sales and expenditures and things like that. So I pretty well do all that myself, but I've learned it from my dad and from some accountants. I have had access to different companies that I work with will help me in the formulations and different things that I do for is manufacturing my feed. We manufacture our own feed, so I don't buy from somebody else. I do carry other companies' feed, but we manufacture our own. We kind of learned that. I didn't have an education on it. My dad learned it the hard way, and then he taught me. And we just basically learned it ourselves on the formulation and the paperwork, too, for the books and accounting.
Do you consider yourself a fiscal conservative, or what's your risk level? Because you'll be having to make those kind of decisions on the board.
I'm very conservative because, like I said, starting from where we did with what we had to, it was tough. I mean, you know, you start out at the bottom, you don't know if you're going to have business or not in a year, and so we were very conservative. I don't waste money. I don't spend big expenditures on things. I've actually took a lot of things that probably weren't real good and fixed them, made them where they were very functional, where they would work, rather than go spend 4 times that amount of money on a new one that would do the same thing.
Get ready, because I think you're going to shock then what happens at the CMB board. What are some of your ideas for economic development in the Cherokee Nation? What would you bring new to the CNB board?
Well, that's a good question. You know, because this is all new to me. This will be a challenge to me also, which I think will help me in other aspects. Plus, hopefully it'll help the Cherokee Nation too. I've looked at some of the businesses and what they're doing, and I'm hoping I can bring in some prospects where I've looked at it from, rather than I see sometimes maybe they spend money maybe where I wouldn't because they have it and I didn't have it. So I learned to take something that was less expensive and make it work, where sometimes I think people in business that have a lot of capital in front of them spend money on things that just because it's there. And I hope I can bring that perspective into the business where, you know, let's look at it from another angle and see what we can do to bring it forward and make it better.
Well, this is very refreshing, so I look forward to your work in the board meetings. Do you have any conflict of interest that you need to lay on the table today with existing business relationships, maybe past business relationships or relatives?
None that I know of. I mean, I've pretty well been in this business for 25 years.
And you don't plan on selling us anything, right?
No.
You're on board, okay, very good.
No.
Thank you. How do you feel about Cherokee preference in employment, specifically our Taro law? I'm guessing you're probably familiar with it.
Yes, I am. Actually, at one time I was certified. I'm not right at this moment. I tried to get in at one time with some Tulsa businesses like the Tulsa Zoo, and I got the Taro certification thinking it would give me a preference to get in that door. And I wasn't very successful with that. It was very tough. I dealt with them probably for over a year, but I just couldn't get my foot in the door.
You might relook at that, because I think Taro's worked on that.
Well, I've talked to some people about that, and that's what they told me. They said they changed that a little bit, but I had a real hard time with it. You know, it just, I don't know, they'd give me the runaround up there at Tulsa, and we'd come back and they'd offer me the bids, you know, then I'd do the bids, and they wouldn't send back what really took place, so I never knew if I was getting a preference or not. And it didn't seem like I was, because I never got into their business in the time.
Well, I look forward to getting to know you and your service to the Cherokee people on the board. This is on a separate note and does not reflect on you, but I would ask, I'm used to, I think, that the Secretary of State and not the AG would present our nominees at minimum if the chief is unavailable. So I would ask that if you'll take that message back, please, that we need to see either the chief or Secretary of State. We never get to ask the chief anything, you know, anymore. It'd be great if he would show up every once in a while, which does not reflect on you. And another comment, which, again, I look forward to getting to know you, but the branches on our trees seem to be very straight in our nominations and not very diverse. I would ask that we start looking outside of Cherokee County. There are 13 other counties of the Cherokee Nation, 12, maybe Cherokee and Adair. Please, not to reflect on you. You'll be needing my support today. Just overall, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor.
Would you like somebody from Milwaukee, Craig?
Buck, we're really honored to have you, even be considering being on the board. Knowing you all those years, I can tell the council members one thing: if you got Bud George on your side, you have integrity, and you'll have somebody that'll give 110%. You know, they built that business from scratch, like you said. Times were hard when the economy was up and down, fluctuating. He's still here, so you know, we're giving the blue chipper here. One of his weaknesses, maybe he's an overachiever, and you know, making a comment. You do live in Cherokee County. The capital of the Cherokee Nation is in Cherokee County, so don't forget us here as well. We're visiting those other counties, but at the same time, we're just really honored that you even consider this position.
I appreciate that, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. We have Councilor Fraley.
Thanks for being here today. Mr. George, what do you see your role as a board member on the CNB board? The reason I ask that is I notice you have extensive operations experience, and I know myself it's sometimes difficult not to want to micromanage as a board of directors. So how do you see your role as a director?
Well, that part I'm gonna have to learn, to be honest with you, because I have micromanaged most of my stuff, and this is gonna be an experience for me that I'm gonna have to learn also. And I don't know that part yet. I think I'll probably be sitting on different committees, and some maybe ahead of where I can have a little more say, and maybe some it just may be advice that I give. I don't know. This is kind of a new experience for me, to be truthful with you. And I hope to learn from it, and I hope I can help the Cherokee Nation, the Cherokee people.
I appreciate the diversity that you bring to our CNB board and your conservatism.
Well,
I appreciate that.
I think I've had to do that to survive in this economy in the last 10 years. You know, I keep looking, I think, because I've done the feed business so long, but I decided if I don't diversify, then I might not make it, because there's so many things can go wrong anymore that just figure if I have a little bit of this and a little bit of that, it all kind of builds the program. And that's what basically Cherokee Nation's doing with their different things. And I look forward to it. I think it'll be.
Well, I've bought feed from you before, so remember me.
Well, I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Garvin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. George, for being here this morning. You mentioned the dairy business. Kind of tell us, just give us a rundown on what you did.
What we did?
Did you have milking machines, or do it by hand, or?
No, sir. I actually did it by hand one night. When it was not long after we got into business. We didn't have a generator yet. We were only milking 27 cows at that time, and the electric went out. A snowstorm or something, and was going to be out for about 2 days, and we did milk them by hand. And I think that's why my hands are like this today. You milk 27 cows by hand, man, that was a job. But we did have machines, and we started out. We started with heifers, so we raised baby heifers, brought them up to cows, and bred them, and then started milking. What we had was a 4-bone it's called a herringbone barn. You milked 4 on this side and 4 on this side, and it had a pit that was about as tall as this table right here. So I was inside the pit, the cows would come in one side, and then you'd wash, clean them, disinfect them, and then put the milkers on. Milk one side.
You milk twice a day?
Yes, sir.
What times?
We milked at 5 in the morning and 4 in the evening.
I toured Brahms Farms and just recently, and they milk 3 times a day.
Yes, they do.
It's quite a place over there.
Yeah, we looked at that 3 times a day. It's pretty consuming. Most of the bigger dairies did that. We were a small dairy, and we milked from 100 to 150 heads. So, but it was if you want a job, that's a 365-day job, and it's twice a day.
One business to stay out of.
Yes, yeah, I really didn't miss it.
Any further questions for them? Question been called, this resolution. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate your time and look forward to working with you, and will do the very best I can.
Good.
Now move down to announcements. With respect to the scheduling of this next meeting and E and F, without objection, I would actually like to schedule both of these meetings, not for our last Friday, Thursday of the month, but the Friday after that, which is February the 1st, technically in the next month. If no one objects and has a scheduling conflict, I have a major scheduling conflict, and just ask for the council's grace.
Please repeat that.
Friday, instead of the last Thursday of the month, the very next day, Friday, February the 1st. Technically, it wouldn't be the month of January, or January, ENF and rules committee meetings, council fishing conference. Does anyone have a scheduling conflict? Yes.
As long as we reschedule the open carry training, that one.
Oh, it was open carry training?
Well, that's at 7 though. I think Shannon will work with us, I believe.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate the indulgence. All right, I'll entertain a second. Now, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those